Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, 10th Man, Father of a Stolen Child, Neil, Brian's Logic, Eli, Arwin, 10th Man, the Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Everyone.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Who bit their lip there? Who bit their lip?
Any evidence of a downward bias?
I think there's evidence of an upward bias because helium balloons go up and they're attracted to the firmament, and it only pulls, it's a very, very weak force, and it only pulls things like helium, hydrogen, helium balloons, eggs in pint glasses. The firmament's attractive force is obvious.
Hey, how about tea? My tea I made this morning pulls the steam.
Yeah, a firmament pulls steam as well. Yeah, it's definitely there. I can see it. I can feel it. I just know it's there. It's so obvious. Steam rises. Come on.
Any scientific evidence of gravity? Do we need reminding
No,
what gravity is? Hello?
What is it?
No, I can just assert that it's there because we see some things go up and it's very weak and but it's obviously there. I can feel it.
What is there?
My upward bias. My upward bias.
No, that's a bias is something subjective. It is what your consciousness does with things. I'm asking
what's
the natural phenomena?
Yeah,
we definitely see an upward bias in the natural world because some things do go up, right? Most things don't go up, but there are things that do. So there must be. That's proof that there is an upward bias.
Okay, enough sarcasm. No, there is no bias. There's some things go up, some things go down. It's dependent on their medium and their density with relation to their medium. Dependent.
Yeah, but there must be something that's influencing Nathan because it can't just do it.
Don't forget about the floaty bias. It's got to be a floaty bias too.
Yeah, the one that doesn't like the one that sits on the fence and doesn't like to commit.
Yep. There you go.
I don't know where I'm going to sit. I might sit between that density. I might not want to. I might want to be less dense today. It's a bit like the rebellious particles of gas. Any evidence? Any evidence of gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No. Can't have any violations of the dual expansion of gas law. Gas will always expand into the vacuum or into the available volume. It's called dual expansion.
Yeah, that expansion's described with entropy.
Yeah, I just like to give the scientific phrase because, I found it recently, and I just thought it sounds better than saying, "How do you have gas pressure without a container?" It sounds a little bit common, so I thought let's just ramp it up a little bit. Show us a violation of the dual expansion law. That's a better way to word it if you want to be a little bit more scientific.
Not science. Descriptions aren't science. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. Viable hypotheses, actual science.
I did say a little bit more.
Nothing.
Not necessarily scientific.
Yeah, I know. You're bordering on swiping that magic trick to lend credence to your own assertions. I'm not going to say nonsense, but assertions in this instance. And it's been done for you. That's why they called natural laws scientific laws. Because when you're describing something accurately, never to be inviolable, never to be disproven as a description and you call that science, it means that when you call mathematics science, people nod. Well, it's not science, neither is. Laws of nature are just descriptions, accurate descriptions, but that doesn't make them science.
So if I ask, are there any violations of the dual expansion of gas law? Is there anything wrong with that?
No.
Well, there we go then. That's scientific.
That doesn't make it bloody scientific. It's not a cause and effect relationship that's been validated by systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis that's a scientific prediction with an independent, dependent variables, control variables, and a null. Based on natural phenomena that you've observed, well, you're not going to formulate this law of nature into that. It's merely a description. Not science.
I love the way you word that, Nathan, because when your show finishes at 3 in like 50 minutes time, I've got a premiere on. So make sure you go to my channel and check it out because it deals directly with a little bit of application of scientific method. And it's about somebody making claims to do with a downward bias that I heard rumors about last night. So do check that out. Bang on, like 55 minutes from now, it's going to be on my channel. It's going to be brilliant, guys.
Got a mod status in this channel, 1980 channel, so just stick the link in. Make sure you subscribe to Anthony Riley's new channel, which is called Sleeping Warrior, I believe.
Ew.
Check him out. Spam the link so people can know where to go.
I lost all my friends recently. I feel very lonely out here on my own.
Got your channel back. That's what's up. Or did you
No, I
open
had
a
to
new
start
one?
again.
What the hell?
It's like getting your channel back because it
You got
looks
the
the same.
trolls
It
mad
feels-
at you, man.
Does that definitely mean Rant is beating you on subs now then?
I'm hoping somebody buys me some. If there's anybody out there that wants to buy me some subs, can someone sort that out for me?
Don't even hint
But
at it.
1,000 would be good because like that'll get me over that. Because I can't do community posts until I get to 1,000.
No, you want real people to actually post to. It just bugs me. If you haven't got real subscribers, how are you supposed to gauge your own statistics? And the answer is you can't. So you need real subs. Why do you think every show I say, if you haven't done already, subscribe? In other words, if someone's like, oh, he really wants to grow his subscription base, I'll create a new account and subscribe. No, don't do that. I just want you as an individual, if one account is what you've got, you don't need to create more accounts. Certainly don't buy them if you're a YouTuber because you can't gauge your own statistics then. It's just crazy.
Don't listen to Nathan. He's talking rubbish. I'm fickle. Just buy some subs for me. It's fine.
No, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
Impossible to measure to an intangible object.
Do have a claim distance based on the R value, though. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius? Get that there, 93 million mile distance, based on assumptions of Venus being the same presupposed radius value as Earth, and it being a spherical rock in a sky vacuum.
You know how they just assume R? They also assume a gravitational constant or gravitational field, and they assume that Earth curves. They also assume that there's a downward bias that's being renamed into something else, and it's like, we don't really see that. It's an upward bias. We see that.
Eagle Plane and Anchor asks if you are mocking Globebusters, Tony.
No, not Globebusters. I'm mocking the perception of a downward bias that's being touted as though it's fact and it's obvious and it's observable and testable and all these things. It's so obvious to some people, but when you look into it, it's not there, is it? I mean, just check out my video in like 50 minutes time. It's brilliant.
Put a link in the chat. Doesn't look like it to me.
I do
I've just
recall.
done it, Nathan.
Thank you,
Didn't
Adam. Supporting Anthony and his new channel and its growth that's so important at these early stages. Thank you, Adam.
Come back, subs. Come back.
Maybe if you put a link with your name next to it, that might help you somewhat. But I won't suggest it a 7th time. I think you've you either got the
I'll just
point or
spam it
not.
a little bit in chat. I'll spam it. It's okay.
Thank you, Adam. And
I've
thank
done
you.
it twice for you. Not that you're in a rush.
Oh, thanks. Do you know, I've not actually got the thing. I'll open the window and say hello in chat. It'll fix everything.
While you're doing that, any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? That's the claim we spin.
Shout out to the latest subscriber, the Adam Meakin. Thanks for the sub, Adam.
Pleasure. I heard about this channel on Nathan
well-
Oakley's today, so I thought I'd sub and join.
Well, that's axial.
Oh, well
The
done.
best axial rotation answer I've heard.
Well, I looked into how they built the Burj Khalifa, which is at the present the tallest building in the world. And the biggest problem they had building that wasn't anything to do. It doesn't even have a damper system. The way it's built, it's its own damper system. But it doesn't really have to even worry about the ground underneath it moving at all, because the biggest problem they had was wind. So the biggest problem they have with very large, high buildings is wind.
Ah, see,
No.
there's a good question about that. Wind is high pressure going to low pressure, right? Why does wind only ever go in that one direction? Oh shit, it doesn't, does it? It fluctuates and varies. And what's that based on? Pressure, temperature, variety of things. But it never goes the upwards direction, does it, towards the clouds? It always goes laterally. Wouldn't you think that if there was a massive magnitude or differential from the Earth relative to the vacuum of space, that all directions would be towards space, because that's where the differential is? Why is it only lateral? Oh, hang on. We don't get lateral displacement, do we? We only get up and down. Shit, so how do we explain wind?
We're in a dynamic system, but that system must be closed in order to achieve gas pressure in the first instance. So it's all well and good you discussing gas pressure differentials and cycles that cause wind, turbulence, whatever. Well, to achieve the gas pressure differential, you first got to have gas pressure. And if the sky was a vacuum, then we'd never achieve gas pressure in the first instance.
Shout out to Dieball74, my latest new sub. Woo!
Okay. Maybe run a little telethon.
I'm going to shamelessly plug anyone that subs on this show just to be disruptive. So now's the time to troll indirectly through me.
Yeah, don't do that.
Better check your subs.
What?
Blank chocolate.
I've only got the notify from Dieball74, so if other people have done it, I've not got it yet. It's coming through. Must be stuck in traffic.
That's by no means least. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of said presupposed spherical Earth discussed earlier?
Shout out to Del West Watson.
Hell no.
Total fantasy.
That concludes
So what you're
housekeeping.
asking us, Nathan, is there any evidence of a reverse? God, I'm not forgetting about it. Sorry.
Thea? Reversing Thea?
No, what's the things they put on the bicycle to make a dynamo? That's the claim. It's a reverse dynamo,
Yeah,
where
that's right.
electricity
dynamo?
creates magnetism, not magnetism creating electricity. The inner solid and outer inner liquid core. Reverse dynamo.
Yes, hence self-perpetuating in the question.
Yeah, that part's a bit tricky, as the solid inner core, if I remember correctly, rotates east to west, whereas the globe out goes west to east. So it goes against the rotation of the globe. There's no explanation as to how it gets going or keeps going that I'm aware of. I couldn't find one anyway. So
It's slowing down.
yeah,
Still go-
that was why I did read that.
Is it still presupposed to go west to east? Did you say it goes west to east?
The inner solid core goes east to west, goes west to east, yeah, and east to west, the opposite from the globe itself.
East
So
to
it's
west,
spinning the
opposite to the
opposite way.
rotation.
Yeah,
So
the opposite way from the
it's
globe.
fighting against the rotation that Earth's claimed to be performing as it hurtles around the sun in the heliocentric model, right? So, is that presupposed molten solid core that's going in the opposite direction, is it still going east to west if you're in the presupposed southern hemisphere?
Well, yeah, it still is going east to west.
But if you transpose that onto a claim that the globe heads make, even some non-globe heads like John Le Bon still make this claim. They say it goes the opposite direction in the southern hemisphere when you beg the question. But if your molten iron core, when you're begging the question, still goes the same direction regardless of where you are, Why would it be asserted that the stars that all rise in the east and travel to the west by our vantage? Why would it be asserted that they go in opposite directions when you beg the question of being underneath where you began if you travel south? People are stupid.
Because people are looking at them from a different angle.
Well, clockwise, counterclockwise is relative to which way you're looking, whereas west to east, or east to west in this example, isn't, right? That's a direction that you can qualify regardless of which way you're facing.
Yep, that's true.
Right.
Well, that's the thing with dynamos. You never know what they're doing.
Well, the thing about it is that what they're describing, it's funny we were just talking about it and we've been talking about it recently. What they're actually describing with this opposite rotation of the inner solid core is actually a damper. So technically that should stop. That should, like, basically it should stop the movement of the outer shell, the outer Earth, globe Earth. If it's moving in the opposite direction, it should technically stop it. Now, John did say that the claim is that it's slowing down, but it should stop it, because that's what damper systems do. So the globe Earth has basically a damper system.
Yeah, and I'm sure they just extend the timeline in terms of the scales and say, well, it is slowing down. And in 15 million years from now, it'll have stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be some humans around to see it.
Like, if I can give a valid explanation for why something that doesn't exist could exist, does that mean that that thing then exists?
Let's hope so. Can you do that with unicorns? My kid loves them.
I can try, but you'll have to presuppose they exist first.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so unicorns already exist. What the hell do I need you for? Get lost.
Well, that was the trick.
Oh, that was it, was it? So I've just got to automatically assume that the thing that you're trying to prove is automatically real, and then you can just say anything you like after that. So long as I presuppose unicorns are real, you can now talk about the quantity of food they eat, and it'll make it a proof. Excellent. Well, this works a charm. I take it all back. You don't have to get lost.
I'm here to help.
Thank you very much. I'll let my kid know. Come here, Eleanor. Just presuppose they exist.
Yeah, my kids are like that with Bigfoot. No matter how much I try to make them not worry about Bigfoot getting them in the woods, they can always find a reason for why Bigfoot has not been found.
I have evidence for the iron core, not the molten iron core, just the iron core. It's in Master B.
Okay, let's have a little looky. Some sort of tesseract or something. What is it?
You never seen the movie Event Horizon?
Oh, is that from Event Horizon?
Yep.
Oh,
That was that gravity core that they had in the ship.
Well, they're making a black hole, aren't they?
Yep.
That's from Event Horizon.
Yeah, that's where the gravity comes from, man.
It's got Samuel L. Jackson in it, hasn't it?
Nah, that's with Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, my bad. I meant Lawrence Fishburne. Boom, boom.
Yep. I mean, why not, man? This could be evidence for something.
Actually, Event Horizon wasn't a bad horror flick. It wasn't terrible.
No, that was good.
It wasn't one of my favorites, to be honest. Even
It wasn't awful. It wasn't awful.
Obviously, all up in the second law of thermodynamics violation, but back in the day, when I was a kid, that shit was great.
I think what you said, Samuel L. Jackson, Nathan, was because Sam Neill is in it. So the word Sam Neill is the bad guy in it.
No, somebody mistook Samuel L. Jackson. A news reporter was interviewing him live and credited him for something that Lawrence Fishburne had done. He's like, I'm not Lawrence Fishburne.
All right.
I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, Event Horizon. Yeah. All that sort of stuff I can't watch anymore. I've got it. I've got Event Horizon on my hard drive. But would I sit and watch it? Probably not. Unless I was, prepared to annoy anybody else who's in the room sat watching it with me for the entirety of the movie, as I fail to suspend disbelief enough to get into the movie again.
That's exactly what happened to me this over the weekend when was it over the weekend? It was a couple of days ago. And I watched Space Movie, which is an animation, and it was like so many things I had to not know in order to attempt to appreciate the movie, but even still, it was hard to watch.
That's it. If you're under the misapprehension that you're on a sphere, you don't even consciously have to suspend disbelief. It's not like you stood on a theatre stage watching them perform and saying, okay, I know they're actors, but let's get into the plot. You don't even have to do that stage because you're unconsciously suspending disbelief anyway. So when you watch, for example, Superman flying around a sphere Earth, you're only suspending disbelief on a conscious level that Superman exists. One level of suspension, which is enough. You can do it. Or I used to be able to do it. Whereas when you know what we know, the Earth is obviously inobservably flat, there's no Earth curve, there's presuppositional space and R values to get the world under this paradigm that they know what the heavens are, i.e. the sky, it's a vacuum in their paradigm. Well, when you've got all of that going on, and then you see Superman flying around a CGI sphere Earth, you can't get into it. You're like, none of this is, it's too far. You have a little cognitive snap. You can't suspend disbelief anymore, and therefore you can't watch the movie, or I can't, or not Chocolate Eli saying he couldn't watch the movie either, right? Because you can't suspend disbelief that much. It's too much.
Well, nothing has stopped me watching Superman. I just want to throw that out there. But I understand. I don't let the globe out nonsense stop me from enjoying movies.
Yeah, but there's that second of like, oh my god, he's just flying from like 14 psi to like 10 to the negative 70 tour in like 2 minutes, and it's like,
yeah, but he
went out there,
so...
but the air is just hanging out. It's crazy.
But for me, when I'm watching, Space Show or Space Movie, I think it was called Space Show. And I mean, there are afterburners. There's like, it's seemingly like an equilibrium where everyone knows what direction that they're. Yeah, it was just too much,
Man,
Like,
I get like that with Peppa Pig. When Daddy Pig's telling Peppa that space is real, I'm like tutting and sighing. My kid's just like, yeah, it's all right, Dad. And I'm like, no, it isn't.
That's funny. She's like, relax. It's okay.
Relax, it's Peppa Pig. Yeah, but he's talking nonsense.
Peppa Pig.
I wanted to speak up during the housekeeping questions, but I wasn't able to because I was busy. Can I bring something up?
Feel free, Eric. Go ahead.
So when you guys were asking about evidence of gravity, I was in here chatting late night with a baller, and I was just talking with him back and forth, and he was claiming that the moon caused the tides, and then I was asking him for evidence of gravity, and then we got to the point where I'm saying like a helium balloon goes up, and his evidence for gravity at that point was to give me a math equation for buoyancy that includes gravity. And I just tapped up from there. I was too tired. But so I think Chocolate said that about what about a helium balloon going up? Well, Chocolate, how about this math formula here? What do you have to say to
that? show me how this math formula creates what they're calling gravity as the helium balloon is going up. Show me the equation as I'm holding the balloon trying to go up in my hand. That'd be nice.
Well, that's valid, Chocolate, but just based on the information you've given me thus far, you're talking about the moon and Earth with gravity as a describer for the force between the two causing the tides in a rhetoric that's now 106 years out of date. Because if you're saying he's given you some maths for it, it certainly won't be Einsteinian maths, because that's a two-body problem it can't solve in the field equations. You can only solve for one mass. Therefore, you can't calculate that moon causing a force on a second body, because you can't calculate for it with Einsteinian maths. So automatically he's into, if he's presented you maths, 106 years out of date maths. That would be where I'd start. Hold on, you're saying the moon attracts the tide from the earth. Okay, let's see that in Einsteinian mathematics. Oh, what's that? You say you can't do it? Yeah, we know.
Well, my thinking was as well on top of that.
Sorry, I'll talk after you there. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So
Go ahead.
when he presented me that, I was feeling like he was also like contradicting what he was presenting, because the density of water is way more dense than the air. So the buoyancy formula wouldn't make any sense, because the moon's attracting the water through the air in his like rhetoric, right? But the balloon's going up against the density of the air. Like, it's like the opposite of what he's claiming. You know, I don't know if I can explain it, but I'm trying. Like it's the balloon's floating and coming up because of the gravity in the formula. It's going up with the, like, including the formula in his mind, but then also the water is violating that formula by coming toward the. I don't know. Do you guys understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So
describing buoyancy, and he's having a force that's pulling the gas around the helium down to force it up. Well, that requires gas go down, go boom, boom. So the gas around the helium balloon's pushing down to force the balloon up. So you've got the gravity force on the gas pulling it down as a homogeneous layer that's more dense than the helium in that description with gravity. Well, that means gas go down, go boom, boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls, does it? No, gas doesn't behave like that, unfortunately. So no, gas is not going down, go boom, boom to form a homogeneous layer that's more dense than the helium to force it up. Gas is expanding in all directions, regardless of what gas it is. So no, that's not a valid explanation, regardless of what maths they might provide. Would definitely be 106 years out of date. I'll just add that on again.
I think the best.
But then
thing
now I'm thinking again is that he is claiming the moon's pulling the water. So couldn't you just claim that the moon's pulling the balloon up too? It's just so stupid. I don't even know where to begin.
Your best
I suppose they could.
Your best
you
defense.
could.
Go on, Nathan. I'll go after you.
Well, no, I'm just agreeing with him. You can say whatever you like. It's a model, right? It's a fantasy world that you can do anything you like in. You can have molten iron cores go in the opposite direction to a claimed spin we don't experience with Coriolis effect. You can have gas that doesn't expand into vast areas of space in line with entropy. You can do whatever you like. It's just a model. The heliocentric world, the sphere Earth, isn't real. It's just a model.
Oh.
Eli, you're causing a load of chaos.
So why can you? Sorry.
All right, just wait on mute till you actually talk. Otherwise, I have to mute the line because of the chaos it causes.
No, I was attempting to talk, but there's a lot of reverb.
Yeah, I can hear it. Try again. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, shouldn't the clouds? Like, why are there any clouds? Like, why does it have to be a cloudy night when the moon is overhead?
Yeah, right. I love the imagination of this battle that's going on between the 1/6 gravity of the moon and the gravity of the Earth, battling while the Earth's gravity is able to hold all this water to the outside of this ball, but the little tiny little 1/6 gravity from the moon is able to come through that ridiculous force that holds all the water and manipulate all the water on the Earth. Well, it goes through all the air to do it. Oh, I mean, this is a great freaking story right here, man. It's great shit.
just by extension, think about the moon. Think about the moon in the context of the Earth, right? They say that the Earth's pulling on the moon and the moon's pulling on the Earth. Only a little bit, but they're both pulling on each other, right? But we don't see them being pulled together. If anything, they say that the moon's being pushed further away by, is it a couple of inches a year or whatever it is? Yeah. But what's the other force that's stopping it from being pulled in? Because there's supposed to be a force pulling. There's two like additional forces like acting on each other, pulling towards each other because mass attracts mass. what's stopping that from happening? Because I don't know.
Maybe the moon's buoyant.
It's not happening, right? It's not happening. The moon isn't falling around us. We're not falling around the sun. This is only a description in a model called the heliocentric model. So why are we trying to explain away why this happens when it doesn't happen?
I want my
Can
gravity
I
back,
say what?
man. Sorry, Brian.
Go on, Brian.
Sorry, chocolate. No, I don't want to ruin chocolate's gravity battle. I don't want to be that boy. But to the lad who's actually, sorry, to the lad who's talking there, what I was going to say to him at the start is when someone comes up with that gravity stuff to you, right? Best thing to ask them, especially when they send you equations, just say, how will that cause gravitational lensing? And that'll be the end of that, because that's gravitational lensing. It's pure 4D Einsteinian. They can't go anywhere with that. That's the end of that. Just send it straight back to them, bring us right back to their own nonsense, which is gravitational lensing. Ask them how that causes gravitational lensing. They won't have anything.
Can you tell me what that means?
Explanation altogether.
What does that mean?
It means that when you learn about space-time and Einsteinian nonsense, when you actually do learn about it, it's not even that difficult to learn the basics of it. You'll see that all this nonsense they're talking about concerning a force of gravity and attraction between the masses and all this nonsense, was really thrown out 106 years ago. So when you ask them, explain gravitational lensing with that equation, they won't be able to do it. Because a lot of them won't even know how the explanation for gravitational lensing, which is the curvature of space-time.
Okay, he's asking you what is gravitational lensing, and what you're telling him is the reason you'd ask about it isn't because you need to know what it is, and feel free to look it up. It's because the description of gravitational lensing is specifically described in length, breadth, depth, and time. That would be pseudo-Riemannian four-space geometry, Einsteinian geometry. So when it comes to things attracting other things like moon and tides, you can ask them how it would affect something that doesn't matter whatever concept is in Einsteinian descriptions, in this case lensing, gravitational. You can ask them, how is that described in four space, or how is that described with Einsteinian? The reason Brian's suggesting you do that is because it's been superseded by Einsteinian. That's the current rhetoric, and whenever they invoke a force, as is being done in the question you're being asked, and then presented with maths to explain it, because it's not something that we actually experience in reality anyway, but when you do that, or when that is done to you, moreover, you can just put it straight back into their court with the current rhetoric, i.e., how does this get described in pseudo-4 space? How is this described with the Einsteinian field equations? How would this affect gravitational lensing? All you're doing is you're taking it away from the 106-year out-of-date, dusty old and busted of forces and taking it into the conceptual pseudo-4 space that's current, which it's not a force. So all it is understanding where they're using forces, which is out of date, and where their current rhetoric doesn't have any, and then asking them to describe their force in this non-force geometry that's current. In other words, take them out of the Newtonian, put them back into the current Einsteinian. That's what Brian's saying. And you're thinking, I just wanted to know what lensing was.
That myself, I gotta look into that myself too, just to understand it.
If you go online and just look for Einstein's theory of general, or just relativity explained, general relativity explained, there's plenty of videos that are only 10, 12, 14 minutes long that will give you a brief explanation of the basics of it. You don't need to have, you don't need to at the start learn loads about it. Just learn the basics of it, and you will soon see how the nonsense they speak about has actually no connection to Einsteinian. Because most of them, they'll throw out the word. They throw out the word. Sorry, Eli, just want to finish off this part. They throw out the word relativity. You'll find some of the ballers will throw out the word relativity, and then they'll claim a force of attraction between masses. That tells you they don't know what they're talking about. You can just get some basic knowledge on relativity, and you'll defeat 80% of them with that alone.
Yeah, I do know a little bit about that.
Like there's an explanation.
Hold on, Eli. Go ahead, Eric, and then we'll get Eli after. Go ahead.
I have looked into it a little bit. Like I've seen where they show like a big ball bending the gridded pattern and all that stuff, and then they show like someone will put a. It's funny because they do that thing where they put a ball on a piece of like fabric, and then they put another ball in it and it attracts it to it. Is that the relativity theory? Because
that's the
that's really dumb because the
reification of
ball
bending
rolls right
space
through it.
time.
That's a literal reification fallacy right there. Using something that's actually concrete or fabric to represent something that's non-existent. It's hilarious.
That's actually a false equivalency, that thing where they put the balls onto a big sheet. That's not actually how it works. So ignore that. When you see that, ignore it. That's not correct.
That's also
anyone who knows about it. Sorry, Nathan, go on.
No, I'm agreeing with you. The bending of the conceptual medium known as pseudo-Riemannian force space is not the same as the reification fallacy when someone misinterprets that description in Einsteinian mechanics and turns it into a piece of fabric that they stretch out and then roll balls around on. Number one, that is not a comparison that is fair with the description in Einsteinian force space. And number two, it is just a thicko's reification fallacy.
So when you see lights in the sky, right? And in the heliocentric model, it's claimed that you shouldn't see it, quote unquote, by the positioning of the sun. Therefore, it's the sun's gravity that's actually pulling the light to your eye from beyond what you should see. Are you saying that that's not possible because the sun doesn't actually have a gravitational pull?
Sorry, are you trying to explain why we don't have gravitational lensing now? Way to go way into that begging the question fallacy to try and pick it from within. Fair play to you. But yeah, your conclusion's correct. If we don't have the thing that's being described in the first instance, that's gravity, then we don't need to explain this problem away with gravitational lensing now, do we, Eli?
Eli, are you asking? Is there no force of attraction, or gravitational attraction to the sun? Because that would be correct. There isn't.
Okay.
There isn't. Kepler's analemma that they explain by the force of gravity, as how that was the most people explain that as the globe Earth is being brought around that, and it moves fastest past that when it's closest to it, brought around the sun, and it moves fastest past the sun when it's closest to it in its elliptical orbit. That's all explained through a force of gravity. But gravity is not a force. So they can only explain now how it goes around it through the bending of space-time, but they can't explain the differential in speeds and whatever else, or rates.
But can you explain it with incoherent dielectric acceleration now, Brian?
Yeah, no. It's a headbender.
So yeah, Event Horizon was a great movie, in my opinion.
I agree.
I thought Sandra Bullock in Gravity was way better.
Gets used quite a lot by NASA debunkers. Not that we do a great deal of that here. We just say space isn't real, violation of natural law. But for the people that are actually pulling apart the CGI nonsense, they'll often show you how the high wire for gravity was done. How they superimpose ceilings on half pipes that are connecting different rooms, but there's no ceiling between them, so obviously they can move the high wires between them. Then they just CGI in a ceiling after the fact, and you've got a floating Sandra Bullock. Precisely how they do it on the ISS.
Well,
or on high wire.
Don't forget the newest member to the team, the Fly on the Mars rover.
Fly? What I don't know. It's like the mouse in space and various other things.
Yeah, I made a good pun out of it. I said it was named after Buzz Aldrin.
Very good.
Buzz Aldrin.
Good one, Kent.
Half the time, I think they leave them in. So you can argue all day about whether or not it's possible to have a fly that's survived as it's travelled through the sky vacuum and landed on Mars. No one's landing on a light in the sky called Mars. The sky is not a vacuum. You can't travel through a non-existent region to get to a light in the sky presumed to be a rock called Mars. None of that is real. If any of that was real,
not even the rodent.
As long as I whistle past the graveyard to say that you shouldn't discriminate against insect space travel.
Can't have insect
But
space
what about
travel.
the poor Arctic lemming that's still on Mars? Nobody remembered.
While everyone's
guy.
arguing about whether or not you can have rats in space, rodents in space, or flies on Mars, right? The journey that took place for that claim to even start is fake. Because if it was real, we'd all be dead. The gas we're breathing would have expanded into the sky vacuum and none of us would be breathing. So it's automatically bunk. You don't need to argue about whether or not there's flies. Do you want to know why there's a fly in there without even seeing it? Because it was filmed here on Earth and there's flies here. Wherever they filmed it, there was flies. That's why there's a fly in it.
No. You're missing the whole argument. The argument is when the fly comes back, his lifespan normally is 15 to 30 days, but because of space time and warping, he's going to be 100 years old.
You're mixing up space with Narnia. I know we do make that comparison, but that time dilation problem only occurs with the wardrobe, not with the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. I think you're getting the two confused.
But what if we use the iron core from Event Horizon to create a wormhole? Then we don't have to worry about time. There you go. See?
Who needs a closet when you got that thing?
There's always the danger that the red dwarf crew will create a white hole and it'll spew time back into existence, so you still have to worry about it.
Where's Ripley when you need her?
I moved away 10 minutes. Is everybody on acid or something? What's going on?
And we.
Wait a minute. You're the one who posted the fly picture, Adam.
Yeah. It's everybody on acid.
He posts the fly picture and says we're on acid.
Yeah. It's. I think I addressed the same point last time. My point was it's basically don't attack that. Just attack where did the supposed bit of kit and fly travel through to get to where they are to get the pictures? That's what I'd stick with.
What if it was the fly that piloted the aircraft?
Right, Adam's question, is anybody going to answer? It's not rhetorical.
Ask it again, Adam, please.
What was the thing between here and there where the filming took place that they travelled through? What was this supposed medium they travelled through to get there to film the fly on Mars?
Vacuum of space.
It's not.
It saves you trouble, you see. Saves you trouble, they drive. That's where it all turns to poo, doesn't it? Fly poo.
It was my upward bias that they flew through.
Unless.
The downward
But the one
bias.
thing you guys are missing is the magic. The one thing you guys are missing is the magic speed. That's what makes it all possible.
Bro. You got it, bro. The magic speed.
Yeah, having a magic speed doesn't change the fact that if the gas we breathe was next to a vacuum, as claimed in the heliocentric model, it would fill it. It would vacate. We wouldn't have any gas. We'd all be dead. The sky is not a vacuum. They're not travelling through a vacuum to get to Mars. Mars is not a rock. They've assumed its size and then travelled on it based on presuppositions of Earth being a rock with an R value that they can't get anymore. None of their maths makes any sense. None of the distances make any sense. They're just lights in the sky. Not travelling to them because the claim that we can comes with a violation of natural law, which is to say that we'd have to travel through a vacuum to get there.
Has anybody seen that video that NASA released showing like a twin propeller helicopter? I think it's supposed to be the one that's actually on Mars. And they put it in what they said was a 5% atmospheric vacuum chamber, basically representing what they say is on Mars. and they showed it flying.
With a
And I'm
rope.
looking at that going, that ain't going to fly in there, guys. But you'd have to have it.
Is that the one they
95%
attached
more
with the rope?
Oh yeah, and the parachute. Like, I honestly think that I think NASA. I swear to God, I'm sure they're trolling the ball earthers to see how stupid and gullible they are.
Replicate the
Well,
conditions
is
they
it
say
reasonable
light
that
to replicate the
5% of the atmosphere sticks to a smaller ball in space then?
Sorry, before we get to this,
Yes,
the ball in space called Mars claimed to have this pressure, right? Well, how did they achieve it? Did they have a big, massive container?
Yeah.
So to even have this lower pressure, comparable to Mars, they had to have it contained.
Yeah.
Mars in the heliocentric model contained, as per their example.
No.
So that gas that's on Mars claimed to be a rock in a sky vacuum would dissipate also into the sky vacuum. There'd be no pressure.
Yeah, dual expansion of gas would always make sure that would always happen. There are no exceptions to it.
You
Give
don't
you an
reckon Mars is one of those open-closed systems again, do you?
Well, I'm going to qualify that. So have we all seen Total Recall? Preferably the Arnold Schwarzenegger version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In a while.
Well, there's a part of the film where they shoot at each other and break the glass on the dome on Mars. What happens? The high pressure inside the dome immediately vacates outside and dissipates into the vacuum, never to be seen again. Yeah? So they've got a dome with pressure, sky vacuum, and the gas expands and leaves, vacates, high pressure to low pressure, as you'd expect with entropy. Later on in the movie, he goes to some reactor, turns it on, gas pumps out, and it just stays there. It doesn't fill the vacuum. It just hangs around on the surface for no apparent reason, and apparently above it there's a vacuum still, but the gas isn't, it's just decided it's going to stay there. Obviously that's a Hollywood movie, but it's also the description of Mars in reality. The second description, not the first description where you'd need a dome to keep the gas there. In the second description, you just have a huge amount of gas produced by a reactor, and then it defies the laws of nature. Just stays there because you've got enough of it. So if you have enough gas, you'll defy the second law of thermodynamics? No. Not at all. The gas that's produced by the reactor in the movie would just fill the space exactly the same as the gas in the dome.
Maybe that's why one of my coworkers is so avid on, like, there's just enough pressure being created here that we don't feel the pressure leaving this open system. Because of shit like that, like you just described.
But it's not. But we're not experiencing an open system. We're experiencing cycles, which means we must be contained. It's not going up and then just dissipating into the sky vacuum at a rate that entropy would be conducive with, only for vast amounts more to be produced at ground level. It's cycling. Well, for it to be in a cycle, we've got to be contained.
No, hey, I get that. What I'm saying is, I know somebody who's trying to explain it to themselves in that exact same way.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Like the way you described it from Total Recall, like, oh, we just have enough, so we could just breathe and, you know, it could dissipate into space and it'll just stay here because we have enough being produced. Not understanding you won't have any pressure at all if you have no container.
Exactly.
And she won't understand that. It's like she
more
thinks it's just gas shooting out of the floor.
It'd be called a gas route, though, wouldn't it, as opposed to a gas cycle? Then it'd be the route straight from the planet out off into space.
Right. Right.
What we do observe. That
You could even call it. You could even call it the path of least resistance.
Sounds like
If you like.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
I just find it astonishing that ball earthers will argue hurricanes and argue that that's caused by lower pressure and that's why we get the rotation things, and they claim Coriolis for it, but they do accept that hurricanes exist. They see that the pressure drop from, like, it's what, 200 millibars, it's about 2 psi. That causes a hurricane. Now, that 2 psi drop causes devastation to animals, humans, buildings, rips everything out of the ground, trees, you name it. You've all seen a hurricane, right? And that's just with 2 psi. And they accept that the 2 psi is why it happens, right? Well, why don't they accept that the 14.7 that goes to nothing, sorry, 0.0000, because it is a technically positive pressure, why don't they accept that that should be going the opposite way too? If we see lateral rotation and lateral movement on the ground at just 2 psi, why don't we see it violently burst off into space?
I'll tell you, they've got an answer. Do you want to know the heliocentric answer? Because this natural law doesn't apply to the heliocentric model.
And Bob's your uncle.
It's a shame that so many kids get taught nonsense.
Well, you mean those same hurricanes that appear to actually rotate from the inertial reference frame above, when we're told that they're caused by a Coriolis effect, which we will only see from the ground, huh? Those same hurricanes?
Yeah,
yeah, hurricanes are demonstrations of actual deflection, though, aren't they? Not apparent deflection.
Yeah, that's from the pen of idiot chocolate. People who don't understand what Coriolis effect is.
Ah, I see.
Oh, well.
But yeah, Total Recall. Check it out.
I'm going to watch that tonight.
They've got contrasting positions intentionally, right? You know, you need to have a dome to keep the pressure here, but if we release loads of it, it'll stay here because suddenly the laws of nature don't apply. Because he's put 3 fingers together and said Quaid as the rock drops in the movie into the reactor.
There's nothing like the irony of Spaceballs, though, because like the whole thing was that there's an air shortage. Meanwhile, there's a container around the Earth, but they have problems with air. They even keep it in cans, little cans that say Perry Air.
She's going from suck to blow.
She's gone from suck to blow.
Do you know what's funny? We were talking earlier about damper systems. And the Taipei 101 that we spoke about there last week, Nathan, I think it was, the damper system in that you saw, I think, that's mainly for typhoon. Now, that damper system is mainly for, and it's most of what it has to deal with is typhoons, which it had to deal with a big one there a couple of years ago. And the video is online if anyone wants to watch it, of that damper system working within that typhoon, stabilizing the building, right, which was the tallest building in the world until the Burj Khalifa. But this typhoon, right, is claimed by the ball side to be caused by what we know to be globulus force. And this globulus force is due to a supposed rotation. But the Taipei 101 damper system never has to deal with rotation or movement of the earth underneath it. It has to deal with the typhoon. So there's something wrong with that whole story there, if you go backwards in it, starting with typhoon.
I said I'd look for a picture on Facebook now, see if I can dig back far enough to find a picture of me standing next to that little pendulum looking thing. Like bright orange or bright yellow, really colourful. They sell these little gift shop toys that are like little men that have got the head that's the same shape as the ball that you see. I don't know how to use Facebook. I'm never going to find it. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll have a quick look before we finish the live show. See if I can find it.
Well, while you're having a quick look at that, wondering if any Globers in there got any comments on the magic speed? does anybody have anything for that?
Do they even know what number that magic speed is?
Well, I'm going with 88 because that's the speed that you had to hit for the flux capacitor to send you back in time. So that's what I'm going for. But I mean, maybe a Glober will have something more empirical for us on what Mr. Smoking the Grass Tyson was talking about with magic speeds and shit. Any ball believers got that for us or what?
1.21 gigawatts.
Turns out there's a magic speed. Rovers, what's the magic speed? which you could just send an asteroid, and no matter what angle you send it at, the impact crater will look like completely circular. Anybody? I need to know the magic speed.
And how did they know? How did they find that out?
Oh, because you just send it. You just send it faster. Because apparently Neil deGrasse Tyson, Smoking deGrasse Tyson, in his younger years, used to send asteroids faster to places. Fucking clown, bro. Obers. Hello, magic speed.
Oh
Nah.
gosh.
Maybe there's none in there. I'll try again tomorrow.
Well, I'll do a pun on the last topic. I tore the baller hurricane argument apart easily with a twister.
But where were you on the Earth? Because I'd love to know which way the twister went. Was it anti-clockwise or clockwise? Because that'll tell me where you were on the Earth.
The main part of the pun was Tor, T-O-R-R.
Come on, Tony.
Oh.
It'll only tell you which hemisphere you're in.
No, but I can then calculate my angles to the horizon and work out exactly where I am. Who was it that said that? Was it Fight the Flat Earth? I'm sure it was him.
I don't know about you guys, but I just need a swinging pendulum, and I know where I am on the Earth.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
You just all you got to do is follow the figure of 8 pattern it makes.
Yo, I wish that clown would show up here and
That
tell
was
us
fun.
about how a swinging pendulum can tell you your location on Earth. That's almost as bad as the magic speed.
That's the Foucault GPS system.
Imagine being grown and saying some shit like that.
Yeah,
Jeez.
look at that figure 8 pendulum.
Mr. Gas wondering about running off.
I found it.
Yeah, maybe QE, because he has a military background. Maybe he knows how to find out where he is with a swinging pendulum. Surely they were all given a pendulum. Every soldier was given a pendulum. And taught how to use it to find out where they are. Because that would be something, that would be a
Are
thing.
you saying QE might have the magic speed?
Well, I don't know about the magic speed, but he might know how to find where he is with a swinging pendulum.
Yeah, but I just don't know which gas particles wander off.
All of them? the only the ones that don't run away, run around. Because he said them both. They wander off and they run around.
Sorry to interrupt. Right, I found a picture of me standing next to this pendulum that's Brian's been talking about. This is the damping counterweight in Taipei 101. So fortunately, I've got somebody who stood next to me who actually took a picture of me so you can get a scale of how big this thing is. And it's several feet behind me. It's obviously even bigger than it even appears in this picture because I'm not stood right next to it, far from it. It's in a big pit. Yeah, and you can see the cables, these rope-looking things are cables all the way around it. And that's what swings in opposition to an earthquake to stop the building from swaying and then shaking itself to pieces. So that sits about 2/3
Why can't I see this?
the building. It's in Ballbusters and it's on the live stream if you actually want to see it.
Okay.
I've got others.
That's a big pendulum.
It's massive.
So that's there, Nathan, to dampen any movement of the building during an earthquake. So if the earth moves, that dampens it.
Yeah, it swings in the opposite direction. Yes.
Therefore, by definition, the earth is always moving. So that thing those ropes would be twisting, wouldn't they?
That's the point, finally.
Yeah, they'd be
yes.
oscillating, wouldn't they?
Exactly. If we were moving, right, that would start moving.
Yeah, it would.
At all
oscillate.
times.
Yeah, precisely. Crack villain. That ball would start moving if we were moving. And then we'd start seeing a not actual deflection in the pendulum motion because Earth would be turning beneath it. Right? No, it's just static until the earthquake comes. Then it starts shaking violently. Again, you can look it up on YouTube to see some videos of it actually moving. There's some videos where people are in there. So they're in there as tourists and then an earthquake hits, right? And then what are you going to do then? Well, probably in the safest place in the entire country. So don't panic. Just take a video and go, woohoo! Glad I'm here.
Well, it looks like it's in the shape of a ball, so it'd be the first one that ever moved.
Plenty of balls move. What are you talking about?
I'm talking rotation.
Okay.
It's actually 18 feet wide in diameter, and it's 650 or 700 plus tons weight, something like that.
That sounds
It's
about right.
very, very heavy. Yeah.
Right, with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, smashed the super chat, commented, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!